Hi, Brian. Welcome to Finrep's podcast. We cover stories of SEC reporting folks in this chapter for us. How are you doing? Can you inform the audience a little bit about yourself and how did you started your career in finance?
Sure. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I started my career in public accounting. I went to school, got an accounting degree at San Jose State. And my first job out of college was for a local firm where I did like tax and what people would call consulting plus auditing. And then I moved to a regional firm where I strictly did audited public companies. That's where I got that kind of experience. And then lastly, finished up at a national firm, non big four, but just outside the big four. Worked there for a couple years, got my MBA while I was there. And then finally, after that, so it was about 15 years in public accounting. And then I transitioned over to industry where I've either held SEC reporting roles or like senior revenue manager roles.
Got it. How do degrees like CPA and MBA actually help while you are progressing in your career? Is it something that you would recommend to folks who are very early on in their finance journey?
CPA, absolutely 100%. MBA was more of a bucket list thing for me. I've been told by recruiters that it helps, but it honestly never really comes up in interviews. So it's just again more of like something I wanted to do for myself. Um, but the CPA definitely, whether you're going to spend time in public accounting or go to industry, having that stamp on your resume definitely opens more doors for you.
At what point did you study and take the sections? Was that like something you did while you were in school, or is that kind of once you started working in public accounting, you felt the need to go get the CPA licensure?
Yeah, because you have to have so many units. So I don't know if they're changing the rules now, but you basically had to have so many units before you could start studying for the exam and
Mhm.
eventually get your license. So yeah, I started studying immediately after college and getting my first job.
Sounds good.
Got it. And what made you very interested about SEC reporting, Brian? What was it about this particular role that you felt that you wanted to actually shift here?
Sure. So it was two things. It was more of like knowing that I did not want to pursue the partner track at a public accounting firm. Back then they really didn't, unless you were clearly on the partner track, they might kind of open the doors and kind of let you know what it looks like from a compensation point of view. But since I wasn't on that, I didn't want to like pursue something where I didn't really know, what the compensation was going to be like. Um, and then secondly, having the 15 years of public accounting to bridge over into industry like an accounting manager role, I would have had too much experience for that. And this was around the time we were just coming out of the Great Recession, and so things kind of changed from a hiring perspective, where maybe people who are managers, senior managers in public accounting could jump right into a controller role, even at a public company. But that wasn't the case back then. So it's like, well, what's the bridge position between public accounting and industry that's a good fit for both sides? Um, and that ended up being SEC reporting. So if I spent 15 years, auditing financial statements, how hard would it be to turn around and be the preparer? So it was a natural bridge position, and going through that interview process and learning what companies were looking for, it seemed like a natural fit. And I mean, I enjoyed working on financial statements, so it wasn't a big leap for me to do it.
Got it. You would have seen so many filings being done end to end. For the broader audience, could you walk us through what does it take to start and until the finished process? Uh,
Sure. So it starts with the GL team, performing the close, month end, quarter end close, um, getting all the journal entries in, getting all the reconciliations done. And then from there, like for example, at my current position, my current company, the team will shift over to start preparing like the SEC, we call them SEC tables or SEC support, um, all the backup that eventually rolls up into, whether it be the 10K or the 10Q. Someone's obviously got to prepare the four financial statements: balance sheet, income statement, cash flow statement of shareholders' equity. So, once those are all ready, those are, among a timeline given to me, and then I get that information into our SEC platform. And then from there, it gets reviewed, goes out to the auditors, goes out to legal, goes out to other key stakeholders for review and edits and revisions, usually a couple different iterations of that. So usually by draft 3 or so, you have like your kind of final draft that you'll end up filing. And then, you use your SEC software to file and push the button, and then you're filed.
Got it. Is there any particular part during that process which you feel that teams always underestimate in terms of complexity?
Someone might think that it's, maybe getting new tables or new, something triggered by a new accounting codification or new ASU update or something like that. But it's really just kind of the granular like processing edits, especially for like a 10K that tends to have more edits than say like the quarterly 10Qs. It's a matter of gathering all those and then getting them into your filing software. That can be the tedious and kind of time consuming thing, and not so much like just trying to get a new lease table in or something like that.
Got it. How do you personally approach collaboration with multiple teams outside finance? You did mention the legal departments and even the management. What are the best practices that people should follow?
So for us, I create a calendar. I call it the SEC reporting calendar. Our auditors are very fond of it. They like to get it as early as they can so they can structure the timing of what their procedures and whatnot. So I send that out to them, send that out to legal. That's a collaboration between myself, my controller, my director of accounting. We make sure that, all the things line up. You basically will work backwards 2 ways. You'll work backwards from your press release date, and you'll work backwards from your audit committee date, because a lot of it you need to have as final as a draft as you can to provide to the audit committee. And so working back from those dates, you plug in, where you're going to have your first draft ready, when you want comments back and things like that.
Got it. And whenever a new SEC requirement comes up, what is a usual process for you today? How do you come up to speed? How does it take to actually inculcate into the recent filings?
Yeah, so I'll split that in between, say, like financial statement gap stuff, and then there's obviously like maybe like cybersecurity or ESG or tariffs or things like that. So on the financial statement stuff, your auditors are usually looking for how are you adopting this. So there's usually some kind of adoption memo you put together, and from that adoption memo, you'll probably have a section in there for like what is the incremental disclosures that are coming out of this. So you've kind of done the work ahead of time, way before it ends up, before, it's time to file a 10Q or a 10K or whatnot. And you get that blessed by your auditors, circulated. If you need, your CFO to sign off on a position or something like that, you've gotten all that done. So by the time it comes actually, like, let's say the end result is uploading a new table and a paragraph into the 10Q, you've already done the legwork. Relative to, say, the non-financial stuff, I got a pretty good legal team, internal counsel, and so they've usually handled that stuff. And a lot of that will be, you don't want to be a laggard, but you want to be like a first mover either. So you're always looking to see what other companies are doing first, and do some benchmarking. We have a software called IntelliGize, which kind of helps you dig into SEC filings, and put together, a list of peer groups or other companies in your space, and see what other companies are doing, and then, tailor it, to your needs.
Got it. In your career, Brian, have you ever had to encounter a major restatement, late filing, or comment letters? And basis on that experience, what did you learn to never come into that situation again?
No restatements, or I'm sorry, you said restatements, comment letters,
And filings, late filings.
late filing. Yeah, so never had a late filing or a restatement. I've had 2 comment letters in my career. They were very minor. Key stakeholders tend to make a bigger deal than they actually are. Ours were just related to like revenue disclosures and just being a little bit more descriptive or something like that. But you know, your external auditors are going to want to opine. Your external counsel is going to want to opine, and obviously there's a process of getting your response back to the SEC. But fortunately, in my career, I've never had anything too heavy in regards to those 3 topics.
Got it. I guess maybe the world should also see your SEC calendar, Brian. That should be quite helpful for others. Given the number of late filings that we see people doing on SEC, I guess that will be very helpful.
Yeah.
Uh, in terms of your own tech stack, and you had the opportunity to work across multiple stakeholders at different points in your career, right? Can you give us a rundown of different softwares that you would have tried through? Where does each and every element of it come up with, so that people who are trying to pick up new softwares can actually look through them?
Sure. So, depending on the size of your business is going to drive what size of ERP system you'll use. Obviously, the big names are like Oracle, SAP, NetSuite, and then there's some secondary ones right below that. We use one that's pretty prevalent in the life science space. It can handle manufacturing inventory and whatnot. Usually, those systems don't have a great or robust external reporting. Even just basic financial statements like income statement, balance sheet. So sometimes companies will buy bolt-on software that will, the data will feed from the ERP and give you nice and pretty financial statements. For us, we just use Excel. So Excel's kind of like the middleman, or I wouldn't say middleware. That would be a bad term to use, but kind of the middleman between our ERP system, and we use Workiva to file. There's the 3 that come off the top of my head are Workiva, RGP, and Donnelly. I've used Donnelly and Workiva primarily, and I use Workiva currently. And then like I mentioned earlier, these Excel tables that the team gives me is what I feed into Workiva. And then Workiva does the Edgarization. It can produce a PDF or a Word file that looks like an Edgar version, and then it obviously will upload your documents to SEC for the filings.
Got it. In very early on in your career, which was the most challenging part while you're navigating the SEC reporting landscape, Brian?
The most challenging part is usually more so on the 10K versus the 10Q, because there's just multiple key stakeholders, right? You've got internal counsel, you've got external counsel, you've got your auditors, you've got your controller, you've got your legal. And then because of the 10K and what's in the front end of it, you tend to bring in other like key management, like might be a, VP of marketing or chief marketing officer, your chief people officer, things like that. So you'll need their input, or at least for them to go through the document and ask, do things need to be updated and whatnot. What the challenging times I've had it happen twice in my career is like your company releases a new product. That can be very pervasive in the 10K and 10Q document. You might have a risk factor set 80, risk factors, and 60 of them might refer to the name of your product. And so it's comprehensively going through the document and making sure it's getting updated for, your new product line or whatnot. That's where I've seen, like, in my career, the most time consuming, the most problematic challenges that I've had, trying to get a 10K out the door.
Got it. In terms of what AI and automations can go across and accomplish, have you seen better uses of AI related tools in your own company or otherwise? Uh, are there any AI related workflows that you have already adopted which has been helpful? Uh, a common problem we hear from finance folks that it takes them a lot of time to complete these workflows. Have you seen any specific examples, Brian, or how do you think about AI in finance in general?
Well, I heard a saying once that, you won't lose your job to AI, but if you don't know how you can incorporate AI, you're going to lose your job to someone who might. Um, so far, I mean, we're kind of in the early stages, I would say. For me, I'm just trying to stay current on what's going on. I haven't really looked into like whether or not, and our company itself hasn't really looked into whether or not, at least from a financial reporting side, whether AI agents would be helpful or some type of AI automation workflows. Our company just allowed us to start issuing ChatGPT Pro licenses to use kind of like in your day-to-day work. Um, so and but other than that, it's kind of to be determined for me and our company, like to the extent we're going to be using AI, at least on the financial statement processing side.
Cool. For people who are just graduating and still in college and they have to navigate a fairly tough market with what AI can potentially do, is there any recommendation or advice you would have for the broader audience?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I am hearing like some of the entry level jobs in like public accounting, or some of the tasks at least are being taken over by AI. Uh, I if you can understand like and I don't have an answer for you, but if you can understand like what AI tasks or what tasks AI is currently starting to be used by, say, like if you're trying to get into like a big four, like, what are they using AI for? And then what are they using the staff for? That would be a good route. I know a lot of CPA firms, when they come to recruit, they come to talk. There's accounting. I don't know if the word's fraternity. Like it sounds like they say there was like Beta Alpha Psi or something like that. It was like the accounting group. Being active in those and hearing what the firms are looking for out of entry level people. Obviously, being very good at Microsoft Excel, because I know for me, I wasn't very good coming out of college with it. That's a bonus. Just trying to be up on the latest and greatest and technology, and kind of understanding, maybe what the firms are using, so you can kind of fit yourself as either someone who knows how to use that technology or someone who's at least current in what the firms are looking for.
Got it. In terms of staying on top of technology and news and broader industry, what resources do you end up having going to very frequently, Brian?
Yeah, so you can subscribe to so many like email blasts for information. I think I've got 3 AI type blasts I get every day. I get something from our external auditors. Um, I get something from like an equity administration type company. So every day in your inbox, you've got stuff to read about like the latest and greatest of what's going on. Or if it's something related to accounting, a Big Four's position or take on something that's going to be up for adoption pretty soon. That's really helpful in like staying current on what's going on from both like a tech and accounting perspective.
Got it. What is one thing, Brian, you wish the other teams that you work with or collaborate in the whole reporting process they should understand about SEC reporting workflows?
That it takes time. Some things can't. I mean, some things can be turned around really quickly, but the whole process of itself takes time. It really needs, you really want thorough reviews done, and sometimes that can't be done in a day. You maybe need a little bit more time. And then I think the other challenge that comes up a lot, unfortunately, is you can have internally, you can all be aligned, your controller, CFO, myself, can all be aligned, but your external auditors are hung up on something, on how you're disclosing something in the financials. And anyone who's worked with auditors, particularly Big Four, knows that they don't let go of stuff. So you really have to get them comfortable with whatever you're disclosing. And usually it's coming from their QA team. So there's a couple levels of communication it's got to go through before you can, hear back from them. So that's the other challenging part when, someone asks, why isn't the draft not final? Well, it's like, well, our auditors we're still waiting to get a final answer from them on something.
Got it. In terms of brand, just the whole reporting process, um, are there newer adoptions that you have done? Something that you have, some changes that you have made recently, which has brought a positive impact? You spoke about your calendar. Anything else that you can think of?
So I haven't fully used what Workiva has to offer as far as automation. I did automate this year, the auditors, and it's just a good best practice. You have something called like a 10K or 10Q tie-out where you kind of tick mark and reference all your support for your 10K or 10Q. I used to do that manually, but now I do that in Workiva, so that saved a lot of time. In general, you can never stop automating, right? There's always something you can probably try to automate. So my challenge is, if I try to automate something in Workiva, is it just creating more work for downstream for, say, our GL supervisor who does the financial statements? Am I creating more work for her in order for me to have less work? So there's a balance to it, right? It's got to be net, everyone kind of wins type thing. And so those are some things that I'll continue to explore as I move forward.
How much work are these checklists, Brian? The auditor's checklist, S99, Regulation SX. How do you feel about it? How do you navigate that?
I'll be honest, it's the bane of my existence. There's something like, I don't know, 200 questions. And they're always, and half of them or 75% of them are NA. And in particular, this year, we use a Big Four, and they've been really on our case about making sure they're all answered the way they think they need to be answered. I mean, I think there could be some flexibility of like between a no and an NA. I don't know. I don't want to get lost in the details, but that is time consuming. It's mundane, and most of it is a waste of time.
Got it. And how, is it you who would be going through this, and do you have a team which ends up supporting it? Or what does the process for filling out these checklists look like today?
It's me, and I'll either reach out to our controller if there's something I don't have, or the only time I reach out is maybe our third party person helps us with the income tax provision. Like sometimes there's questions I don't understand, and I farm it out to her.
Got it. And are there things, at least in terms of staying on top of SEC comment letters, are there particular resources do you use? How do you stay on top of what is SEC coming after?
Again, those email blasts, and like the Big Four they'll put out like a 1 hour CPA. So I still maintain my CPA license, so I got to get CPE credit. So it's a good way for me to get an hour and just listen to their SEC comment letter trends. More or less, they're kind of the same year after year. But between that and like the email blast, that's how I stay on top of that.
Got it. No, thanks, Brian, for doing this. This is so helpful. It would be great if you could do a sample SEC calendar published out to everyone so that other teams can also use it and not delay their filings. But it was lovely having you on the podcast.
Thank you.
Quick question before we wrap up.
Sure.
So what we've seen kind of across talking to different folks in SEC reporting is that it's typically one person, like it seems like your current role, or it's a very small team. tackling sometimes a massive task. Kind of what has your experience been as far as working in a team directed solely towards SEC reporting? Has it typically just been you, or have you been working with a small team? And yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much me. Now, obviously, I've mentioned like my GL team puts together schedules and stuff. So although they don't report to me or directly work underneath me, you could say I kind of borrow them, for the process. I've never worked at a large enough company where I needed someone underneath me for the SEC reporting. When I've had people underneath me is when I've kind of had a dual role of like revenue responsibilities and SEC reporting, and so that's a lot. So I would have people underneath me helping me on the revenue side actually, but not so much the SEC side. I think you see that at very large multinational companies, multiple entities, things like that. That's where the team can be a little more robust. But for companies that I've worked for, we've never gotten that large enough where we needed 2 or 3 people on the financial reporting team, because usually you can just kind of borrow from the GL team.
Mhm. Got it. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian, for taking out time. It was great having you on our SEC reporting journal. Look forward to getting in touch soon.
Great, thanks for having me.
Yeah.